What's up, Bulldogs? Alright, in this video I'm going to be talking about President Trump's signing of an executive order. This has to do with Section 230. I realize that a lot of people don't understand what's going on here and they're getting a lot of bad information. So I want to go over this. I want to talk about exactly what is this, what is Section 230. In fact, you'll find that Republicans and Democrats both agree on trying to eliminate this for two different reasons, and you should be scared of both of those reasons. If you guys are just joining me for the first time, I'm John from BulldogMindset.com. On this channel, I teach you how to be a man. I teach you how to build financial independence, how to get the physique you want, how to get the girls you want, and how to go from the victim mindset to the Bulldog mindset. If that sounds like something that you want to be a part of, click the subscribe button and join us. Click the bell so you don't miss any of the videos as they come out. And take the Bulldog quiz if you haven't already, guys. That will tell you whether or not you are a Bulldog. It's just 10 questions. It's real quick and it's kind of fun. So, alright guys, so here's the deal. President Trump tweeted, unfortunately what ended up happening though, Twitter put a fact check in his tweet and they basically contramanded what he said. And this was around voting by mail, which I guess is probably pretty similar. And, you know, the fact check actually turned out to be wrong. I'm not here to address whether Trump was right. I'm not here to be a fanboy or advocate of Trump. I haven't liked a lot of what he's been doing in the last couple of months, to be totally honest with you. What he did and what he was railing against is this provision. It's called Section 230, but essentially what it did, and the purpose of this, was to actually prevent censorship. Think of it this way, all right? Let's say that your Twitter or your YouTube or your Facebook or one of these big social media networks. Well, suppose someone put something on your platform that's libelous, right? This provision, what it did was it basically made it so that they're not responsible for that. And the rationale behind this, which I think is pretty sound, is the idea that, you know, if Twitter, for example, is responsible for everything that every user puts on Twitter, then they're going to have to seriously moderate the fuck out of this, right? They're going to have to really be very careful as to what they allow on the platform and moderate every single tweet to make sure that they're not going to be held responsible like most publishers would for some kind of libel. At a surface level, this makes sense, right? For Trump to say, hey, you know what? If you're going to act as a publisher, if you're going to edit things, and you're going to present a narrative, okay, which, you know, obviously a lot of social media companies are doing, at least there's an appearance of that, then you should be held responsible as a publisher. And his plan was to decrease censorship. Now, there's some problems with this, okay? The problem is that it's probably likely to do the opposite, right? Let's say YouTube is responsible for whatever videos I put up. Then YouTube is going to be responsible for the words that I say. Do you think YouTube is going to just take the risk and allow all this content to be out there? Or do you think that they are going to make sure that they look at every video that gets published and only publish stuff that is going to be germane? Okay, you know, probably it's going to be the second thing. They're probably going to want to filter things and censor things even more. And we end up in a situation which is right out of the book Fahrenheit 451. If you haven't read the book Fahrenheit 451, I highly recommend you read that book. Or I'll put a link here in the cards and in the description. In fact, everyone today should have read, okay, because of what's going on in society today, you should have read Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, 1984 by George Orwell, and probably Ayn Rand's book Atlas Shrugged. I'd say that those are probably the most relevant ones for understanding in what's happening and the dangers of things. But specifically in Fahrenheit 451, what was happening was that basically firefighters were in charge of burning books. That's what their job was to actually create fires. And anytime someone called a fire alarm, it was basically because there's some illegal books. All right. And what had happened was, you know, at some point in the book, the big secret was revealed. And, you know, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but one of the characters asked in the book, he said, why did the government start censoring these books? And, you know, the chief firefighter replied and said that it wasn't the government, it was the people. The people didn't want these books because this book offended someone, or this text offended someone, and this one offended someone, and we got to this point where, you know, the best thing to do was just to get rid of all of it so that no one would be offended, and that's what people wanted, and that's why this came to be. And so that's something that we're in danger of, right? Is that if this Section 230 gets removed and we no longer have the immunity for these social media platforms or platforms in general to, to not be held responsible as a publisher, then they're going to have to censor the hell out of content. They're going to have to really be sure that they're censoring the content so that they don't have this problem. They're not going to want to have that liability. Now, the more left viewpoint is that they also want Section 230 removed, and I'll tell you why. It's the exact opposite reason. Because they feel like Section 230 is making it so that all these platforms aren't being treated as publishers, and things like 8chan and 4chan and places where there's a lot of hate speech and things like that. So they want to get rid of Section 230 in order to hold these people responsible when people say bad things on their platform. Okay, so both of these things are bad, right? We want to have Section 230 in the sense that it makes sense to provide some level of immunity, but we still have the problem of social media networks censoring things. Like, we don't want them to really be pushing an agenda, right, and to have a political bias on those platforms. Otherwise, you're not going to get the straight scoop, right? You're going to be influenced, and it becomes a method of media manipulation. And we see this happening pretty widely today, especially with what's happening with the whole, the C word that happened, and with the whole riots and all those things. There was definitely a bend in one direction, at least perceivable to me, and these are scary things. So there's two kind of solutions that I have come up with that I think are possible. One of them is not so good, so I'll give you the not so good one, which is to handle things on a case-by-case basis, and to basically say, well, look, anytime that there's something that is biased or something that has been editorialized, then we need to look at this on a case-by-case basis, and maybe they have the immunity, maybe they don't. They can't completely rely on the immunity, but in general, there's kind of this blanket immunity, and then on a case basis, that immunity can be challenged based on some actions that a social media company has taken. Now, the problem with this is that it's really hard to say, and how do you penalize people, and how do you know if things have been suppressed? It's easier to see if things have been published that are bad versus things that are suppressed. So I don't think that will really work. But what I do think is the solution here, and I hope the direction that we go, is you could eliminate Section 230 and have a decentralized social media. In fact, if you have a decentralized social media platform, what would happen is that no one could censor anything, because it can't happen, because there's no central authority to censor things, right? And also, at the same time, no one can be held responsible, right? Because it's everyone. So that would allow us the most freedom of speech in general, and it would allow for the least amount of censorship. So that's the solution that I would suggest. Again, does that mean eliminating Section 230 or keeping Section 230? I would probably be in favor, if we move towards decentralized social media platforms, of removing Section 230, because less laws are good. But the only thing I'd say is, like, if you keep it in place, why are people going to be incentivized to move to decentralized social media platforms, right? We need to have that, and I think that's really the way, like cryptocurrency and the whole blockchain and this whole idea of decentralizing things is really great, the peer-to-peer solutions, because it solves all these problems. It makes sure that there's no central command, there's no central power that can manipulate a currency, right, in the case of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, or that can censor information, and there's no way to threaten someone and to have a political bias or any kind of bias, because it's totally open, and there's no one you can come after. So I think that's a good thing. There may be some bad things associated with that, but I would rather take the good with the bad than limit our freedom. So anyway, that's my whole take on this, my whole viewpoint on this. I've tried to dissect this as much as possible so that you can understand what's going on, because I think there's a lot of misinformation about this subject, and a lot of people aren't really understanding how this plays out and what this actually really means, and then the implications of those actions. So I tried to put this together as best as I could. Let me know what you guys think about this, or any alternative solutions that you have, and where do you stand on this issue? One thing I'll leave you with is take the Bulldog Mindset quiz, if you haven't already. All right, and also this: do you even trust information that you're getting, right? Do you trust information you're getting from the news? Do you trust information that you're getting from YouTube or Facebook, or what's showing up in your feeds? Or do you have a level of distrust for all of these things? And it's a scary place, right? Right now in society today, I don't think we can really trust any of the information sources that we're getting, because we know that there's someone pulling the strings. So that's why being decentralized can solve a lot of those problems. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you next time.